Hello, good evening. Welcome to Normal Ireland Live. My name is Alyssa Gucci and it's Friday, so that means me and Curtis are in the studio. Hello, Curtis. How
Hello,
are
my
you?
computer's froze a little bit.
That's
Now we're
fine, no
back.
worries.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
Oh, I'm
I'm
slightly off
good.
camera here. I think I moved the camera. I might
Oh,
censor
no.
myself. I'll sort out in a second. We've got a slightly new setup.
Mhm.
Trying to use more professional stuff. So hopefully it's going to go smoothly.
Fingers crossed. We're self-producing again, so please bear with us. I think from next week we should be back to having few other team members with us, but let's get on with the show. Zach Polanski sounded the alarm on the climate catastrophe in a Green Party conference, calling out the government for planning to drill for oil in the North Sea.
So let me speak directly to the Prime Minister. If we are to secure a livable future for our children and for our grandchildren, there can be no new drilling for oil and gas. On this, the science is crystal clear. The scenes we have seen play out on our TV screens are frankly apocalyptic. And yet the response from our government is to pretend none of this is happening. It is an astonishing dereliction of duty from those whose very first responsibility is to keep all of us safe. Deadly wildfires are being driven by the burning of fossil fuels. And the sad reality is decades of inaction, of politicians allowing fossil fuel companies to profit from pumping out deadly emissions, have guaranteed the extreme weather we are seeing right now, and we will see for the rest of our lifetimes. But there is still time to stop total breakdown. So let me speak directly to the Prime Minister. If we are to secure a livable future for our children and for our grandchildren, there can be no new drilling for oil and gas. On this, the science is crystal clear.
Joining Polanski was naturist Chris Packham, a veteran and firefighter, each speaking on the podium about the climate crisis. There have been huge wildfires across the UK, and at the end of June, the Environmental Agency declared that half of England was in a drought. Zach also spoke about the newly appointed Chancellor John Healey at the conference.
I am worried about John Healey. I think the fact that we had someone who resigned under Keir Starmer over defence spending very explicitly and then has now been made Chancellor suggests that I don't think we're going to learn the lessons of defence spending. What are those lessons? I think when we talk about defence, we need to look at it much more widely and talk about security. Yes, military spending is important, and just as importantly, particularly right now, is spending against cybersecurity to make sure we're protecting our cybersecurity, spending against if there's another pandemic and making sure we're resilient, and of course the climate crisis and nature crisis. That is our security and that is our defence. And I'm really interested by the conversations that Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez is having in Spain right now, where he is saying to NATO that part of the number that we're spending in terms of our defence spending has to include climate and nature resilience, because ultimately, as we've said, that is the greatest threat to our country since the Second World War.
It was Zach's comment claiming that climate change is the biggest threat this country has faced since World War II that drew criticism from the media. Tom Swarbrick from LBC claimed Zach was doing this for entirely political effect.
You can't have no food on the shelves. We've got to be able to grow. I just find this stuff about this is the worst crisis since World War II and 3,000 people have died as a result. By the way, very disputed numbers. Totally unnecessary and done entirely for political effort and done in a way that actually I think has the opposite effect of what people want to have, which is people's attention drawn to this problem. I think people go, what are you on about? And so don't engage with it, because it's silly, isn't it, to say that this is the worst crisis this country has faced since World War II.
In an interview with the BBC, John Diamond asked him whether he was using the climate crisis for political capital.
Cynics will say you have chosen a rather quiet time of the year to raise your profile as it slips under pressure from what are your own unforced errors and from a fairly impressive start by Andy Burnham to his premiership. What do you say to them?
Well, I would say the number one thing that will not cause any change is not to have a Cobra meeting. If the Prime Minister and the government think the status quo is just fine right now, then they have their eyes closed to how urgent this crisis is. The reason why I called a press conference today is because I've seen on phones and TV screens the devastating impact of wildfires across the country. It's important to say as well that when you have a wildfire, that causes the soil, the baked soil. It means when the rain does eventually come, more and more places are likely to flood. That's going to be devastating for communities, but particularly for farmers, the people we rely on for our food production. We also know that those farmers have been working hard through the night to avoid the heat, yet food production is down, which means food prices are going to rise. So it's very clear why I've called this press conference and why I'm talking about this now is from the day I was elected as leader of the Green Party, which was nearly a year ago. We saw our poll ratings rise. They're at the moment stronger than they ever were before my leadership, so we're still doing pretty well. We have 230,000 members. But actually, this isn't about politics. This is about saying to the Prime Minister and the government, this isn't a political reality, it's a scientific reality. They're still talking about drilling for North Sea oil and gas, yet the fact the geological reality says most of those reserves have gone. We need to be stopping the £2.1 billion that we're giving to fossil fuel companies again in tax breaks and using that money to invest in people, the workers that we should be investing for renewable energy.
Curtis, let's bring you in. I think Zach's made some really good points there. We can kind of unpack some of the things that he said, but would you agree that this is the biggest crisis, our country has faced since World War II?
There is, I think it's a quote. It is a quote from 10 years ago from Bernie Sanders. And I think it was during the Democratic primary in which he was challenging Hillary Clinton. And he said, when he was asked a question, what is the biggest threat to national security? And he said climate change. It drew a lot of criticism from people who said, what do you mean climate change? It's the war on terror. It's the Muslims, it's all that sort of stuff, right? What do you mean climate change? And he said that back in 2016. Now, of course, back in 2016, the science was still fully behind this, saying that we are facing a climate catastrophe. But that felt like that was sort of, controversial to say. Zach Plansky has basically said the same thing. So if you ask me, is he correct in saying this is the biggest threat since World War II? Unquestionably. It's not even controversial to say. World War II would be minuscule, and it is minuscule due to or what we're facing. 50% of England is in drought. Half of England is in drought. And we're starting to see it in front of our eyes, which is, there's something about humanity, and that is, empathy rarely, extends beyond your immediate family and friends, and people can't comprehend threats when it's sort of, based on faraway places like in the global south, or if you're just reading articles from scientists saying there's a catastrophe. People don't really truly wake up until it's in front of them. There's another quote actually, and it's probably not, it's probably verbatim, not verbatim even, probably paraphrasing, but you'll watch videos of wildfires in Australia, very far away, hotter countries, and over the course of the climate catastrophe, you're going to start to see more and more social media videos get closer and closer and closer to you until you're the one that's filming a particular incident. And that's what's happening now. So for decades, since the 70s and 80s, scientists have been very clear that if we continue our course, if we don't address man-made climate change, then this is going to create huge problems in the future. And despite global attempts over and over again, they failed to make big commitments. They have drafted policy ideas. They have came up with targets, but we often miss them. And to be honest, it feels like this kind of threat for humanity cannot be overcome until we are living in it, until we have a million climate refugees. I was speaking to Mothin Ali the other day, And we were talking about refugees and immigration, and I was asking him, like, if you're in the media and people were talking or asking you questions about immigration, and especially this is sort of like a narrative that the Greens are open borders, how do you deal with that? And one of the things he said was, we are going to face a lot of refugees if we don't deal with the climate crisis, and it's true. And yet the irony here is that right-wing parties and right-wing media either downplay the threats of climate change, or they say it's not really man-made, or go into outright climate skepticism and denial and conspiracy theory, whilst also saying we need to reduce refugees. And the irony here, because Moffat Ali also said about, in order to bring down immigration or have less refugees, isn't to demonize them or to stop them when they get here, but it's also stop bombing countries and going into war. So in a way, if you're a right winger watching this show, I don't know if you are, but if you're watching this show and you want a party that's going to do more to reduce refugees, you better vote for the Green Party, because we have, honestly, I mean, it's hard not to be defeatist when talking about the climate, but we are going to have massive fights over resources, not oil, water. We're going to have wars over water. And as long as the Western imperial nations are quite comfortable, as we still are, then nothing's going to be done. It's only until we start feeling the effects of the global south, because many people in the global south are seeing and feeling the effects of climate change, and we're just starting to see it. But the problem is, once it arrives, it's too late. Essentially, scientists have already said we've gone past the point of return in which we want to reduce. So basically, average global temperatures have risen by 2 degrees. And the idea is to get below that 2 degrees. Some scientists are saying that we've gone past the point of no return, that we probably can't get below 2 degrees on average, but stay at 2 degrees. And it seems like every single year we have these conferences, COP26, 27, 28, we hear these commitments and nothing is done. And why is that? Because we have profits. We have corporations that want to make profits. I am not being hyperbolic here, but I think that big oil giants who are making money off of, I would say, essentially a death cult, which is, destroying humanity, is a form of terrorism. And people might listen to me and say, you're crazy, Kurt, you've lost your mind. I think it is a form of terrorism. If you're willing to see the extinction of humanity for profit, that is terrorism. The planet will be fine. When people say, oh, planets go through cycles, the planet's on fire, it's hyperbole, the scientists are wrong. We're not saying that the planet is on fire. We're saying it's uninhabitable for humans. The planet's always going to be around, but not for us.
It's actually really scary and really depressing. When you really start to think about it and sit with it for a little while. And I think it's also extremely scary that we're kind of seeing this the rise in sort of in climate change and stuff at the same time that we're seeing the rise in like AI, data
Mhm.
centers and things like that, which we know drain a huge amount of water to cool down these centers. Um, I don't even know how to kind of vocalize my like frustrations and stuff, because you kind of hit the nail on the head that it's all of this really is happening because of greed and
Yeah.
wealth and the elite, and capitalist corporations and all that kind of thing that are just willing to drain our resources. And it really does feel like where's the end point, where anything that we kind of say on the left or from a scientific perspective or anything like that, it just seems to fall on deaf ears. How are we going to get it across to people that this is a real threat? Or is it that we are just gonna have to wait until it basically is past the point of no return? We have more climate refugees than ever before. Countries like the UK that obviously we're historically very wet, very green, we're going to become desert-like? Is that at the point when they'll stop, or will they just
I
not?
I think that we won't solve the issue. We won't solve climate change. I'm sorry to viewers who feel like I'm being too negative, but human behavior over the last 40 years has just proven my point right. We try and come together because it's not just about the media and the corporations are stopping us from making progress. It's even politicians who say they care about the climate, who go to COP, who try and build these targets, but we just fail at it. So it's not just the climate skeptics, it's those who say they care about climate change. And look, everyone knows my position on Keir Starmer, for example. I think he's a terrible prime minister. I don't think he's a particularly good person. And Andy Burnham has made some fine, small domestic policy changes. But something that is utterly shameful from Andy Burnham is saying that he's going to open up North Sea to drill. Not even Keir Starmer did that. Okay, in the Labour manifesto, they said they're going to leave it in the ground. And yet Andy Burnham is doing that. And it won't even have a positive effect on jobs or bills, because it's what we're doing is we're going to extract the oil from the ground. It's going to go onto the global market. And because at the moment, because we're leaving everything to the market, we're seeing price shocks. And there's not going to be enough amount of oil to, reduce prices. It's not going to make that much of a difference. You've got, of course, when it comes to Iran and war, all these things that are making it harder for oil to spread around the globe, making it more expensive. And then there's also the other fact that even if we were to end the war in Iran, oil is a scarce resource. It is running out. It can only ever go up because the value of something goes up the more scarce it is, right? That is oil. It's a finite resource. But wind and solar, that is an abundant free energy. Our energy systems or our energy want to be free, but we just need to build the infrastructure. I mean, the sun isn't going to go away. The wind isn't going to go away. And people say, oh, but what about days when it's not windy? Yes, but when we have wind turbines and it's a windy day, their energy is banked. So when it's a day that's not windy, you still got enough energy to take over. So we could literally transform our energy systems, go to renewables, and it will be so unbelievably cheap to the point that it's basically free. Yet we're not doing that because we literally have market manipulation. Now, ironically, that the market also wants to go towards green energy. You're seeing more and more green energy projects. The problem is it's too slow. That's why we need government intervention. Now, the science aside, climate aside, I want to talk about the politics of Zach Plansky and the Greens. I think it's fantastic that he's done this press conference, by the way. I think for like 6 to 8 months, I and many people on the left have been saying, my God, do press conferences. Reform and Nigel Farage do it all of the time. And guess what? It gets media attention. People are talking about it. And I was like, why aren't the Greens doing that? And it was brilliant. Like, this was politically incredible from the Green Party. They've set the agenda. People are talking about it. Now, of course, insane that Tom smarmy prick, as I like to call him, and the BBC were trying to say, well, is this political posturing? We literally had, for the last 6 months, media pundits say, the Greens aren't talking about the environment. They're not talking about the environment, but they're the Green Party. They go and talk about the environment, and it's fucking political posturing. Are you crazy? This is ridiculous. I mean, they're saying, oh, is this the right time to do it? What do you mean is it the right time to do it? It's the perfect time to do it. 50% of England is in drought. We've got wildfires. And we've obviously had another year of record-breaking heat waves. And they're trying to attack Zach Plansky on this. So politically, this is masterful from the Greens. I want to see this all the time, though. I want to see a press conference every single week, not on just environmental stuff. I want to see it on wealth inequality, on immigration, refugees, and obviously climate change, because that's what sets the agenda. So I thought this was a brilliant intervention from Zach. And of course, seeing the media responding, in their way, that doesn't surprise me. But I don't know if Labour are going to take this seriously.
Let's leave that one there. I feel like we could really speak about that for a while, but we'll move on to our next story. An ex-neo-Nazi and creator of AI slop account Crew Kern Gazette, Joshua Bonehill Payne, was selected as a Tory candidate for Somerset Council. After backlash, he withdrew. But Tory leader Kemi Badenoch still defended his selection, claiming her party believed in second chances. Joshua Bonehill-Payne was convicted of racially harassing Jewish former Labour MP Luciana Berger in 2016, while already serving a separate jail sentence for sharing anti-Semitic posts. But Bonehill-Payne said he had now withdrawn his candidacy and had been offered a position as an anti-extremism advisor to the party. In a social media post, he said the position with the Conservative Party's Culture and Integration Commission would focus on advising on how to prevent young men from being radicalised. Bonehill-Payne spent 3 years in prison after he was jailed in 2015 for posting anti-Semitic material ahead of a planned neo-Nazi rally. He was convicted of racially harassing then a Labour MP Berger the following year. Here is an example of that AI slop.
Spencer has the ball, but she's going in the wrong direction. Polanski takes the ball from Spencer, but still heading in the wrong direction. And it's an own goal for the Greens! Police have arrived, something's going on.
It's so shit.
2 of the Green team's players have been arrested for anti-Semitism. Oh, that was an illegal move by Polanski. A red card for the red communist.
Racist! I'm very sorry, lad. I was wrong.
Referee has let Polanski off the hook. Spencer has the ball. He fell right over, didn't he, just? Oh, Polanski kicked himself in an accident.
He didn't kick himself in the video.
I have no words. Interestingly, this is what the Jewish Chronicle had to say. Kemi Badenoch made a serious misjudgment, but she remains one of British Jews' strongest allies. Interesting. Curtis, can a neo-Nazi really class themselves as reformed if they've only slightly backpedaled to the Tories?
Yeah, I know. I mean, usually when you have like reformed people from radicalized areas of society, like Nazis, right? Usually you sort of go full on anti-racist, right? And you have more radical politics and you read a lot. The question is, how reformed are you when you're like, okay, I'm no longer extreme, but I'm still a Conservative Party member, which happily throws, immigrants under the bus. But I do think it's a good thing that you have reformed people. Like, would I rather your typical Tory or a neo-Nazi? Well, I'd rather your typical Tory. So, I think it's a good thing. And I also, look, I have no issue. I think maybe disagree that in the future we can bring people in who have been down a bad road. But I think if you're going to bring someone in, you have to show more than just, I'm sorry. I would want to see a lot more work before bringing someone into the political realm, into a political party. But I find it so funny how like the centrists and the client journalists are like, Kemi Badenoch hasn't put a foot wrong. She's amazing. I'm like, are you sure about that? I mean, she hasn't disavowed him, by the way. She was just like, we believe in second chances. And that's fine. Again, as a society, we should believe in second chances. But neo-Nazis, I mean, you have to go a long way before you give a neo-Nazi a second chance, in my view. Absolutely not surprised in Jewish Chronicle, though. It feels like we're being gaslit so much. I mean, where was the EHRC investigation into anti-Semitism, the Conservative Party? Where is the calls for Kemi Badenoch, apologizing for anti-Semitism? The Jewish Chronicle, because it's such a hack, such a right-wing Zionist shit stain of a rag, who don't care about Jewish people, they just care about Israel. Imagine if this was... we don't even need to imagine it. We know what happened with Jeremy Corbyn. We know what they've talked about, what they said in terms of the Greens. An ex-neo-Nazi being in Labour, being the Green Party, they wouldn't live that down. And that's the thing, right? Under Corbyn's, Labour leadership, there were no ex-neo-Nazis in the Labour Party, were there? There were people who said some things and some people took it the wrong way, but most of it was just criticisms of Israel. And you literally had the media act like there were neo-Nazis in the party. But an actual ex-neo-Nazi joined the Tory party, the JC's like, oh no, she's a wonderful advocate for Jewish people. Of course, what that means is She's not an advocate for Jewish people. They just know that Kemi Badenoch is insanely pro-Israel. That's their only litmus test, right? They don't give a fuck if you're, supportive of Jewish people or not. And the Jewish Chronicle and the Zionists have lost their minds so much that they've even attacked Andy Burnham. We covered this on the show a couple of weeks ago. Andy Burnham, who's littered his top team with supporters of LFI or people who are, the chairman, ex-chairman of LFI, and he was getting attacked from the Jewish Chronicle, saying that he's throwing Jews under the bus because he once spoke to Gary Lineker, who correctly called the Gaza genocide a genocide, and because Burnham apologized for Labour's Gaza policy, which, by the way, he still hasn't called it a genocide. He still hasn't announced a weapons embargo on Israel. What he's doing is very, very weak. The Jewish Chronicle went after him. But an ex-neo-Nazi, right, who attacked Luciana Berger, Jewish MP, and by the way, she was very much in the middle of the fake anti-Semitism scandal under Jeremy Corbyn. She was very part of that. She was very outspoken against Jeremy Corbyn there. But you actually have like a neo-Nazi, breaking the law, and the Jewish Chronicle do not seem to give a shit.
I do think that is absolutely wild that they have made that statement saying that she's still, she's still an advocate for anti-Semitism and for the Jewish people, etc. It's like, but that guy was literally in prison for anti-Semitic comments that he made. Like, that's how could she support somebody like that? I really don't understand the
And I would like to
process of
see as
even putting him
well.
forward.
I guarantee, if this was another political party, if this was Labour or the Greens, she wouldn't say, well, I believe in second chances. She absolutely would not. She'd be screaming to the hills. She'd be saying that Hamas has infiltrated the Greens. They have an anti-Semitism problem. That's what she would be doing. But of course, it's on her. She isn't. But again, I feel less strongly about whether people can be reformed or not. And again, I think it's good to believe in second chances. And I'm more furious at the media, the disgraceful media we have in this country, and the way in which we selectively get outraged at certain things. And obviously the litmus test for the mainstream media, again, is Zionism. And we don't need to go through the things that we have said on this show. We've covered it so damn long. And we're in a position now where, Zach Plansky, he himself is Jewish, is being smeared as, someone who's allowed anti-Semitism to thrive in the Green Party. In terms of the slop content, though, this is the thing where Kemi was actually right. She was like, I don't like the AI slop stuff. Okay, critical support for her. I fucking hate generative AI. This stuff is just embarrassing, right? And that bit where it's like, oh, Zach Plansky's hurt himself. The foot didn't even touch his face because, again, it's just shitty AI.
But AI always makes stupid mistakes like that. And obviously in the commentary, so many words were mispronounced.
Zaplinsky.
Yeah. I mean, not that I can say an awful lot because I feel like I've literally fluffed every line that I've said so far tonight. But
it's hot tonight.
It really is just cringe. And it's annoying that it makes me laugh, but I'm laughing because it's so bad. Do you know what I mean? I'm not laughing because
yeah, absolutely.
I actually think it's funny. I'm just like, this is actually cringe. Someone's taken time to write that set of instructions to their AI thing. I've never used ChatGPT or anything like that because I don't actually know what goes into setting stuff like that up. But it's just it's just like that, linking back to that previous story. How much water and energy has that wasted to make that awful shit for literally no reason? And I'm sure the account is just littered with other.
I went
like
through the account. I saw some of the videos. that one made me laugh about the Green Party, but it's very salient to talk about AI in among the climate crisis. And as you were saying, it's good to link it back to data centers. Like, how much water did that use? Because that's the thing. It's not even using the water. It's using the water to cool down the data center because it gets so hot. What a waste. What an unbelievable waste of resources that people need to produce this utter shite. Now, I'm not a Luddite, but I just have this burning hatred for AI, generative AI. I've used ChatGPT. I've scoped it out to see what it does.
I think there are I've had this discussion with a few people. I don't know if we've had this discussion on the show before or not, but I think there are some things that AI can do or support with that I think are helpful. Um, uh, Sometimes, like when AI tries to like summarize an email for you, it's like I
Mm,
can read that email, thanks. Like I don't
mm.
need you to summarize it. I can read it myself. But sometimes it is helpful for grammar checks, for if you're not particularly confident with grammar, spelling, putting together an email or a letter or whatever, and lots of other like little things like that. Even sometimes with like if you needed to edit an image and it was just a slight little edit, and kind of in my mind I'm like, well, if I knew how to use Photoshop better I could do that myself, but I actually don't know how to do that. So if ChatGPT can do it, like, okay, fine. But again, like, I don't see the point in like editing a photo of what your dog would look like as a human being, like and all these stupid trends
Have
that
you
you see
seen have you
go
seen
around.
what the chiropractors, but they're like
Oh
throwing old
yeah.
grannies and slamming them through the floor. It's just like, this is so fucking
Yeah. And
stupid.
then there was like that video of Stephen Hawking like doing on like a
Oh,
skateboarding like
it's such
it's just
slop,
but it's really like stupid. And then it frustrates me because every now and again you do watch something and you go, "Oh my God, like that's amazing." And then
Mm.
you realize that actually it's AI. Like
I
if I find out that video of that polar bear cub with the cone on
I'm
its
pretty
head
sure
that's
that's
annoying its
AI.
mum is AI, I will literally take to the streets and I will riot. And I want people to join me because that video has
I
brought me
mean,
so much joy.
you're
And
assuming that
if
our
I,
audience know which video you're
well,
talking about, but
I hope some of the audience is as chronically online as I am. But
there was okay. So yesterday or today, I watched a video. It was of a baby, and you can look. You can usually look at like signs
there's
that
little
something's
tells,
there's little
yeah.
tails, overly contrasty, too smooth. But this particular one was so realistic,
Hmm.
but I was like, actually, is it? And I went through the count and the rest of the videos, and it was just AI stop. And it gets to the point that even us as millennials, who are very, very competent when it comes to technology, that we should spot these things. It's getting harder. It really shits me up. Now, in terms of like AI generally, even ChatGPT and LLMs have hallucinations. Like, that's why I wanted to test it out to see what it's all about. And sometimes it literally makes up quotes and it makes up statistics.
Mm,
And it's like, this is really dangerous as well. Like,
yeah.
you go through ChatGPT to check something. You then have to check it with a source, because if you don't, there's no guarantee it's correct. So, I mean, like, people know my view. If I could end AI today, I fucking would, but we can't. So the question then becomes, in a more serious sort of conversation on AI,
Hmm.
right? You can't stop the direction of travel when it comes to technology. You can't. I would love it if people turn around and said, let's just fucking end AI. It's not going to happen. Okay. Technology arises and that is just the direction of travel. So what do we do? What do we do about the crisis, I think, of AI? I will call it a crisis. And it's about ownership. Again, I made this point before. Okay.
Hmm.
If AI is in the hands of the capitalist class, this is the sort of shit we're going to get. Slop, or using AI to surveil on us, like Palantir, for example, using AI to just assist the IOF, and all sorts of dystopian things. But if we had a collective ownership, or had collective ownership of these sorts of technology, we can collectively decide what we should do with it, and better outcomes will happen. If there are, good reasons for AI, and there are people out there who say there's AI is very useful, we can make the decision to do that. But because it's in the hands of the capitalist class, they're going to do it to make us poorer. We're losing our jobs to AI, for example. And also, look, AI is a bubble. I think AI is going to burst, and I think it's going to be a bigger burst than the 2008 financial crisis. The reason why it's a bubble is because it doesn't actually provide any social utility, and people don't want it. That's the main thing to understand about AI, that I don't think it can sustain itself, is that people don't want it. Therefore, what do the tech bros do? Well, the tech bros have to hype up AI to say how amazing it is to bring in investors. So
Mm.
investors come in, pile their money in, right? And it's not even that profitable. I mean, lots of AI companies and tech bros rely on government subsidies. Okay, it's not that profitable. So when you have these these three things, it's not overly profitable. It's relying on taxpayers' money. They have to inflate its importance so investors come in. And the final crucial one is the fact that people do not want it. That means it's going to be a huge burst. It's going to be massive. People say it's going to be the dot-com crash,
I hope so.
or it's going to be the 2008 financial crisis. I think it's going to be far bigger than that. But you cannot have AI in its current form when people don't want it. No one asked for AI. No one particularly likes it. But of course, again, the tech bro companies have to try and inflate its importance to bring in investors. And once they realize that this is unsustainable, it's gonna blow.
I know we've spoken about AI for quite a while, so I will move the conversation on. But just before I do, I saw actually this last week there was an influencer trip that OpenAI hosted, and it was somewhere in the States to this like nature resort farm thing, and they all ate like beautiful homegrown homemade food, and they went out into nature and did these lovely like walks and hikes and stuff, and the whole like trip was about reconnecting with nature, and everyone honestly like dragged it to filth, like just couldn't believe that all these like influencers were just fully like selling themselves out. Somebody actually said that they didn't get paid for the trip, but it was a free trip because someone was basically like, you should have declared this as an ad. They were like, I don't need to because I didn't get paid. And it's like, well, that's even worse then. At least if you're going to sell your soul,
Do it
get
for
some
some
money.
dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
It is worse, isn't it?
But
Doing AI propaganda
everyone
for
was
nothing.
just like, okay, cool. So AI literally is killing the planet, and the weird sort of Black Mirror-ness of it, dystopia kind of vibe to it, was that they took all these influence out to this nature reserve that probably won't be there in 5 years time because it'll be a data center itself. So hopefully, I mean, there was a lot of backlash and a lot of hate for that. So I do agree, like, when you speak to a lot of the general public, a lot of people do hate it, but then at the same time, a lot of people use it for just really stupid, silly little things that.
I mean, people are going to use it when it's there, but people aren't going to miss it.
They don't really. No, well, they're not going to miss it. And I don't think people really necessarily make the connection between them generating a silly, funny little image or whatever online to the planet literally like burning and all the water drying up.
I think the bigger backlash is going to happen when we start building data centers. They're talking about it in Leeds. Angela Rayner's greenlit some data centers in London. You're seeing that in America. Lots of grassroots revolt against these data centers, which is working. It's so amazing to see. So, if you hear any whiff of any plans of a data center in your local area, get on the grounds and push these politicians, say no. Because I think that's where a lot of the anger is going to come from, when you physically see these horrible buildings in your area.
Nearly went
Trump then. Horrible buildings. Anyway, yeah.
Right, let's leave that conversation there because we have been talking about AI for a very long time. You can clearly see that we're quite like passionate about it and our hatred for it. But anyway, before we move on, it's 2026. We really want this year to be big for Turn Left. We want to be more ambitious than last year and to really put us on the map. We would like 2026 to be the year where we can have a full-time studio and for our contributors to be paid for the work that we do. Your support over the years has been amazing, and we are ready to take this to the next level. We rely on small donations. So if you want to be part of a media organisation that seeks to destroy the oligarchs, then please head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can support us monthly on Patreon, or there is another link for a one-time contribution. You can also become a YouTube member for 99p. Thank you. So on to our final story. Conservative media company The Daily Wire have released a film called Run, Hide, Fight, Infidels, where radical Muslims attack a pro-Palestine encampment at a quote-unquote liberal college. Let's take a look at the trailer.
Your country is beneath contempt.
We who love and serve Allah fought back against the Americans and the Zionists from the scourge of secularism and the lands of unbelief.
Anyone gonna listen to Captain meeting Saunders tomorrow? The retired Delta Force soldier with a new book out.
He's the polar opposite of those brain-dead protesters.
Given the current climate, should Clay Saunders even be allowed on campus?
Mr. Saunders is a close personal friend of Chancellor Friedman. This is a decision I cannot fight.
There are 3 ways Islam will conquer the West. Through immigration, through the wombs of our women, and by using our nation's freedoms against us. Are you paying attention?
Listen carefully. The great Satan, America, will fall. You are infidels. The bodies of women are not pure and the men's souls are unclean.
What makes them so dangerous? Their goals are not in this life, but the next.
Anyone? I got friends here, I can't just leave.
Listen to me! In the law, we cannot run or hide from what is coming. We have to fight.
I will be rewarded 10,000 times in the next life. When you die, you're nothing. Only one way to find out.
That's the American way.
That was awful. The Daily Wire for the last 10 years have tried their best to rival Hollywood by trying to create an entertainment conservative media ecosystem. Back in 2023, the Daily Wire produced conservative comedy film Lady Ballers, which follows a group of men who pretend to be women to infiltrate women's sports, an obvious attack on trans people. Ben Shapiro, co-founder of the Daily Wire, admitted they couldn't find examples of real-life occurrences of men infiltrating women's sports, so just said that the movie was based on the writers making up the stories. Earlier this year, Armie Hammer starred in a far-right movie called Citizen Vigilante, where the plot focuses on a man who takes matters into his own hands and murders immigrants who commit crimes. Sharing the film trailer on Twitter yesterday, Shapiro said, "The threat of radical Islam is real. Hollywood has refused to tell that story for 3 decades. Now we're saying the thing with the biggest, most audacious, funniest, and most kick-ass film Daily Wire has ever released. Here's the trailer." Curtis, I don't really have words. Have you any thoughts and feelings you'd like to share about
Words?
that absolute slop? But also at the same time, like, it is, we can kind of sit here and laugh and like be like, oh my god, that was all terrible, but people will watch that, and maybe some people do agree with Ben Shapiro that there's this missing part of Hollywood that they're not focusing on, etc., etc. Like, what do you kind of make of all that?
Okay, so first of all, conservatives can't make art. They just can't.
Literally.
They're very bad at it.
It's because they have no feeling. You have to have feeling and emotion to create art, and unfortunately conservatives lack that. They lack empathy, they lack passion, love, anything regard any kind of emotion other than hatred, and unfortunately hatred doesn't allow you to create good art.
I mean, the conservative media and conservative films only exist in sort of like the Christian sort of arena. You know, there'd be those straight to DVD or TV movies of like Christian films. That's what you'd see. So the Daily Wire, they've pretty much lots of right wingers, including people like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, who, by the way, calls himself a theocratic fascist. I mean, that's not me being hyperbolic. He's literally got it in his own bio. These people are just failed actors and people in the media. That's it. And they have an entire grievance on the way in which they believe Hollywood is. Look, Hollywood, look, there's definitely political movies. Of course there are. But the difference is, I think, between like Hollywood and what the Daily Wire is trying to do is that Hollywood, they're trying to make good movies, and then you will have directors and writers subtly or sometimes not subtly, push through some kind of political subtext, right? Yes, that's going to happen. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really, really cringe. But the first sort of port of call when making a movie in Hollywood is it a good film? Of course, is it going to make money too? Whereas like the Daily Wire, for them, the first thing was, oh, we need to just push our conservative propaganda. Okay. The making the quality of movies is second. I mean, that trailer, that like politics aside, looked like a god awful film. It was really cringe. I mean, you were laughing in the background. It was like, this is America. Embarrassing, isn't it? Right.
So
the acting in that was, a lot of that was just absolutely terrible as well. So they can't make art. But the reason why I think that's the case is I think that when it comes to maybe like political movements, left-wing political movements, there's a struggle, okay? And in that struggle, I think culture is almost born out of struggle. That's where you get movements from, right? Conservatives and conservatism had never had to struggle for their political identity or to make change. I mean, they are literally the status quo. Take same-sex marriage, for example. Fighting for queer rights. Within that struggle, you create cultures. You create movements. We have Pride every single year. These things come out of solidarity. So I think when you have media, okay, which isn't explicitly conservative, it's just more entertaining. There's more interesting stories to tell. I mean, that Lady Ballers video or film you brought up, where it's like, oh yeah, a bunch of guys pretend they're women to get into women's sports. I mean, like, is that an interesting story? Not really. People are just like, who fucking cares? Like,
but also
the right wingers say this all the time, and it's boring, isn't it?
But also the fact that they said they couldn't actually find any evidence of anything like that actually happening, so they made up this scenario, which obviously you can do that in film, like fine,
yeah, sure.
But it's the fact that people would potentially go out and see that or watch it or whatever, and it just adds to that narrative that this is a really big issue, this is a really big concern. It's such a big issue that even they're making films out of it, and Hollywood's picked it up, and da 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 da. And it's like, no, it's actually a non-issue.
Well, I mean, even when it comes to movies, and they're set in the fantastical or they're sci-fi, the successful ones is the real human element, isn't it?
True.
Right, in which you can still relate to. So, like, can you really relate to conservative media unless you are like a signed up member of the conservative movement, right? If you're your average person, can you really identify with their media? And you can't. It's look, the funny thing is, I think people like Ben Shapiro are just projecting their own views on the world. They've accused Hollywood of just pushing their politics. And again, they haven't completely pushed their politics. You do get subtle and unsubtle political subtext in some films. But the Daily Wire is literally something to just create conservative propaganda. I mean, this film is about radical Muslims going on a pro-Palestine encampment. Okay? That's so obviously tried to be red meat. Now, what many right-wingers will say is, but, liberals and leftists have the political hegemony. And this is just an outlet to hear a different kind of, or hear different views or have some kind of plurality. And I think this is something that conservatives haven't understood, which is that just because the world is changing and just because people socially are, by and large, becoming more progressive, that doesn't mean you become the rebel. So, for example, when same-sex marriage wasn't legal, okay, when it became legal and the majority of people are like, yeah, we're cool with this, that didn't turn conservatives into the counterculture, into the revolutionaries, right, into the rebellious people. It just meant that we've made progress, okay? Conservatives still hold a lot of political and economic power. But that's what conservatives believe they are. Because people have become more progressive, they feel like their views, which in many ways is the minority, they feel like they are then oppressed. It's a very victim thing. So no change happens. This is exactly what Matt Goodwin's New Elite was talking about, because he seems to think the New Elite are the liberals and the progressives, and conservatism is like is the thorn in the side of the political establishment. The right wing do that at the time. It's like, no, it's not. The political establishment are those who have economic and political power. And guess what? The right wing support that, okay? The left do not have political and economic power. Yes, you do see cringy liberal greenwashing and green capitalism, which leftists and socialists scrutinize and criticize. But like the left doesn't have any institutional power, and often where the left do make some kind of waves is through arts, is through culture, because we have something interesting to say, and that's why art is just so much better, and conservatives cannot do it. Like, it's not about me being like, oh, I'm really, really mad and upset that conservatives are doing their own media. Have at it. Just do a good job of it. I think they'd be a lot more popular if they just knew how to make films. But they just don't. They don't know how to do it. They have no idea. Also, a final thing which I find very ironic is that there was in that, and I think it's in the making that particular film, there were lots of like health and safety issues and some accidents, and people were calling for unions.
Oh, really?
And I was like, well, that's very funny.
Yeah, but does that even surprise you?
No,
because it doesn't surprise me at all. Fine, let's leave it there, and I think we'll go to comments. I am just trying to star one now, but my laptop mouse is so terrible.
So terrible.
I've literally clicked it like 20. Okay, there we go. Right, fine. So as I said, we are self-producing again. So apologies if I miss any good comments, because I'm trying to obviously host the show, read the comments while Curtis is talking. Curtis is self-producing and switching the screens and putting videos on.
It's really difficult to do.
You've done a really good job
Thank
with the
you.
last few shows. And hopefully for next week. Oh, you're cracking open a beer.
It's the comments, it's Friday.
Wow.
Did you want one?
Let your hair down. I'm fine, thank you. Someone said I need some laptop stickers. I have some on my work laptop actually, but I haven't got any on this one. I don't actually really use it for anything other than turn left stuff.
We do
now,
need to get you a turn left sticker.
I do. Yes, I need a turn left sticker immediately. We'll do that when the show.
I
ends.
actually, on one of our shows, I don't know who picked it up, but someone noticed that they were a Lost fan in the
stickers.
show.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of Lost stickers, so there's any Lost fans in the chat.
I don't really have a
know.
hyperfixation or an obsession like you, so I'll just have a random mishmash of things. Things that I find fun. Okay, well, do you want to start with some super chats?
Yeah, let's go for the super chats. Yeah, shall I bring them up?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay. Jim, always a pleasure with the Turn Left membership. Thank you so much, Jim. And Michael, as always, another Turn Left membership. We've got, is this a new person? Labour Friends of Genocide has gifted 10 Turn Left memberships. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And your name is incredibly accurate because they are facilitating a genocide. And this is a really good comment from Rachel Atwood, $2 super chat. Are we living in don't look up times? 100%. In fact, there was a video from like 3 years ago, and it was on GB News. Are you surprised? No. In which there was like a scientist on there was like, this is a climate catastrophe, like, sound the alarm. And then the presenters were like, we like to do light-hearted stories here. Come on, like, don't be so doom and gloom. And then someone stitched it with the interview on the film Don't Look Up, and it was like, oh my fucking god, like, art imitates life sometimes when you don't want it to, but or life imitates art, as they say. Katie Marshall, good to see you. Everyone go subscribe to Katie Marshall. She makes political content. Gifted a Turn Left membership.
Thank you.
Let's have a look. 2 seconds. Free up some CPU. Okay. We've got a first. Unfortunately, the comments don't actually show the emojis, but it's got a Corbyn and Zora Mamdani. So we've got little Zora Mamdani emojis, so it didn't show up.
When they're like
annoying.
stickers and stuff.
Yeah, but little emojis. The Michael's coming in strong. I mean, have I just got Michael's comments here?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, because I've got, oh yes, he. Did you start that?
No. Michael,
have I not on the start? I'm not on the start. That's why.
Oh, okay, fine. I was gonna say, Michael, have you infiltrated our comments?
Yeah, Michael's like having a conversation with himself, and we're just reading it out. We're doing running commentary.
No, he's hacked in, and he's just going to put all of his own comments up on the
screen. Jamie Alice 92. Capitalism has destroyed our planet, and it is incapable of saving it. We need international socialism now. We do. It is probably we can't do it overnight though, unfortunately.
No.
But. Look, if you cannot care about the climate and protect capitalism. These two are an oxymoron. You know, as I was saying earlier, look, it is true that the market is favoring green energy. More and more people are investing in that. So one would say, well, you know, why don't you just why do you want to bring about the end of capitalism? And you're saying it's contributing to the climate crisis when the market's quite literally telling us we should go towards green energy. But as I said earlier, it's the rate, it's the speed. Yes, the market's going that way, but we haven't got time to wait for that. We need intervention.
Part of me also thinks hours, which obviously I don't want to happen, but I also think, like, you know, we know that corporations are greedy. Have they not found a way in which they can do green energy and also like make themselves really rich? Because then I feel like then they do it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they are in a way, because the way in which the market is going towards green energy, there are obviously companies that are making loads of money off of it, aren't they? But you have got the old oil giants who want to protect what they've got. I mean, it's not, you know, some of them would just rather watch the planet burn and lobby their politicians and keep the profits. It's just, it's wild. Again, yeah, there are more and more firms that are going towards green energy, but what about the old guys like the Shells or the?
I'd like to see a ratio of big oil company like CEOs and stuff and climate denier. Like, I want to see like what the comparison is of like the two groups of people. Like, are you, if you're a big oil giant CEO, are you also more likely to be a climate change denier?
Well, I think the sad reality of that is it's almost immaterial if they are or they're not, and I suspect a lot of them are not climate deniers, but they just don't give a fuck, which makes it worse because they're like, well, yeah, maybe the science is
I do
right
believe in climate change,
but I care about profit more.
Yeah.
Guitar guy, why don't you join me on my lonesome lol as Turn Left broadcast on Twitch? Because we are on Twitch. Go join our 3-4 viewers over there. To be fair, tonight it's been, as you know, because lots of people on holiday, our shows have been very sporadic. We've got only like 60 people watching tonight, which is a bit of a low for our standards, but
we appreciate everyone that has obviously tuned in.
Of course, we've got our core people who come in. But when everyone's back, when Callum's back, we are going to ramp it up again. September is going to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everyone's allowed a little lull for summer and a little break for summer.
You're not gonna like this one, are you? If Curtis does do a Trump impression, I'm stopping my regular donations. I mean, like, I've got to do it for.
Yeah, there actually has been a lot of requests for you to do your Trump impression.
How dare you? How dare you?
Oh God.
Michael 198. Michael.
Anything else?
I don't know. Horrible people. I don't know what he says anymore. He's so incomprehensive, isn't he?
I feel like, I don't know. I was gonna. Do you know what I've just done? I've mixed online life and real life again. I was going to say, I feel like you did a really good impression the other day. No, it was some guy I saw online.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
$1 trillion to Israel. $1 trillion to Israel. Please keep donating, and please don't get put off by little Donny Trump. I'd love to hear your impression, to be fair.
I literally can't do it.
That's Turn Left After Dark when you do start doing your impressions.
Oh, okay.
Jamie Alice, I want to see Zach directly linking climate change to neoliberal governments. The public need to understand that climate change can't be solved under the current system. To be fair, he did do that exact thing in the conference because a journalist did say, oh, well, you haven't really spoke about climate change recently. Why are you talking about it now? And he said, I talk about it a lot, but a lot of the mainstream journalists don't ask me questions on climate anymore. They want to ask issues about, I don't know, Islamism or anti-Semitism, whatever crap they come up with. But he said, look, I want to make it clear that these things are interlinked. Climate and social justice are one and the same.
Yeah, similarly though, was it last week or maybe the week before when I was saying that Zach, for a good while was kind of repeating this line of, well, you can't I literally, it's gone
well, I
out
think
my head
it's
again,
like you
but
can't have economic justice like social justice. Social and economic justice are all in the same.
Exactly.
In a
So
way.
in some ways, I think he kind of wanted to move away from all of the climate talk and to show that actually, as a party, they're not just about the climate. They are also about all these other really, really important issues, but actually they're all kind of interconnected and interlinked in some way anyway. So, but yes, I do think it's good that they're kind of
There's
coming
there's
back to
so
their
much more
roots
work to
in
be done
that.
from the left there, because I think
Definitely.
I don't think the majority of people make that connection. Like we need to make sure that we deal with the climate crisis whilst creating good quality jobs and cheaper bills.
Yeah.
Which is why the whole aspect of renewable energies being abundant makes cheaper energy. So whilst because unfortunately we're kind of potentially losing the debate on this net zero thing, in which, you know, Reform and Richard Tice and these people have been very successful in pitting cost of living against green energy policies. And they're saying like, net stupid zero, it costs us all this money. They have been very successful, partly because we've had a completely and utterly defunct media to debunk these lies. You know, Richard Tice likes to quote this massive figure on what it would cost to bring in net zero. What he doesn't understand is that cost is only going to go up and up and up and up and up the longer we delay it. But ultimately, like, I mean, it's kind of crazy how people are falling for this, because our oil prices, you know, our bills are fucking through the roof because we're reliant on oil. So the left need to be, and we're doing a lot, but the left needs to be better at communicating that literally transitioning to renewables means your energy will be cheaper. In fact, one day solar will be completely free because it's just abundant. We need to keep hammering that. We should, because again, energy wants to be free. It does. We need to facilitate that. But unfortunately, the rise of reform has seen also the rise of climate skepticism. Majority of people are still very pro-climate, but we've seen a drastic drop in support for net zero by 2030, 2040 and 2050, which is extremely worrying. Because reform, again, they care about profits. They're literally bought on paper by the oil industry.
And those dates are also coming round actually very, very quick.
Literally, you know, people think it's eco-zealotry to want to have net zero by 2030. I think that should be like that's the fucking moderate position. And yet we're 3.5 years away, and we're not going to hit that. And we're probably not on course to hit it by 2050. And if we don't hit it by 2050, I'm sorry to say, it's probably all over. On that fucking positive note, Jack H, it's enraging that humanity is facing this huge existential crisis and world governments are doing absolute nothing or very little about it. But I guess profits for the already mega wealthy come first. Perfect comment, isn't it? Because it's true. We cannot coordinate across government. Look, it's obviously very hard to coordinate across governments to deal with this one issue. But profit matters more. You know, you've even got in the last couple of years at these COP events, you literally have lobbying firms there and oil companies there as well. I'm like, it's crazy. Michael Askew, the right can't do comedy at all. True. You might not know this, but I forget who said it. It was this right winger who said years ago on Twitter, it's like the right are getting better at comedy and it's making the left nervous. And it's like, the right are never good at comedy, though, are they? 'Cause they're not clever. It's just like, hating trans people and immigrants. And it's like, yeah, boring.
Yeah, literally.
And when we say it's not funny, we're not even saying it's offensive. We're just like, but
It's
where's the
actually not
punchline?
funny. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm waiting for your punchline. Trans people, am I right? Cool. Like, get better humor. It's just not very clever. So that's true. The right are so unbelievably unfunny. Specs Bean Farmer. I wonder how much water and power this used. Utter nonsense. Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to know like a 1-2 minute video of AI slop, and we could see like specifically how much energy it would use. I think that would be great if we could do that.
I
We could
actually
start
think
to
that's
label it.
I think that's a really good. Yeah, how it needs to be
Like estimated how much it
yeah,
uses.
but obviously now things do have to be labeled if AI is used for, you know, transparency. But yeah, I think actually that's a good
estimated
idea.
this is how much water it costs to put out the slop.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even possible to calculate, but smarter people than us, I would love.
Definitely.
Hey, if you're watching and you know how to do shit like this, please do it. Dominique Jones, vote for bin face, vote for bin face, vote for bin face, vote for bin face. Take out the trash, vote for the bin face.
Oh my god.
It was 30%. There was two polls. One he was 20%, another was 30%.
But like, I kind of want to know. I want to speak to him and be like, okay, but legit, like, if you do actually win,
He probably just like would resign and then Farage wins again, isn't he? Because he can't be an
No,
MP.
but yeah, no, he can.
No, he
I think
can,
he
but
can
like,
go.
would he
Yeah,
want
but
to do
I
that?
don't know. Just to be fair, I haven't actually really heard any like policies from him because I think they're all just like comedic, silly ones. Or has he said anything sensible? I actually haven't really followed.
They're mostly silly ones, but
Yeah,
they are.
that's what I mean. It's like, okay, but you actually got in, which
But he
means that
won't take £5 million from a
Nigel
crypto billionaire, though.
probably
But that
not.
policy
But
is
also, it's
quite
more
like
the fact that like if Nigel lost, like that's what I want to see. I
so funny.
that would be so unbelievably satisfying.
That's the banter timeline.
But then it's like, okay, but you can't just resign. If Binface wins, you can't just resign straight away. Like you have to put your money where your mouth is, put the trash in the in the bin, and be an MP.
I mean, if I lived in Clapton, I would 100% vote for Binface. No, I'm not showing there. Michael, I'm with Alyssa. I will take to the streets if that polar bear video is AI. I'm very convinced it's AI. I'm sure there's a bit where the cone disappears.
No, it doesn't.
But it's not behind
like,
the polar bear.
It pokes the mum bear like in the butt, and then he's kind of the baby bear's moving forward, and the cone just kind of like slips past its leg. But you were like, no, that looks like the cone just like disappeared into like nothing. I'm like, no, please.
I don't know.
I will riot.
Vimster, neoliberalism was built on creating and controlling scarcity. It'll take something major to shift that. Well, I would say capitalism more broadly is about controlling scarcity because, you know, in order for capitalism to survive, it needs scarcity because it needs value. In fact, when something's too available, that's where you have profits diminish, right? So it's in the interest of the capitalist class to make sure that resources don't get to where they need to go, which is the big irony for capitalist defenders who say, but I just love the free market and I love competition. I'm like, well, you obviously don't like capitalism then, because capitalism hates competition, okay? They hate it. They have them. In fact, capitalists and their firms have the most stringent sort of a controlled economy. I don't know the phrase they call it now. It's gone up my head, but it's incredibly constrained because they want monopolies. They don't want competition because there's more profits for them. So that's the entire point of capitalism, is about maintaining scarcity for value. And the systems of socialism, capitalism, is trying to make resources not scarce. It's about making it abundant. Liberals don't fucking get that. Liberals just think just a bit more capitalism and resources will make its way to people. But it's like, but the thing is though, resources such as mobile phones and laptops absolutely is becoming cheaper. Absolutely, capitalism has distributed technology and goods like that. But when it comes to like housing and water and foods, these things haven't been effectively distributed. In fact, we have millions of people who are suffering from starvation as a matter of policy, I would add, whilst we literally throw food away. That's just not a good system, is it? It's a ridiculous system.
That comment came up as we were talking about AI, actually. And I kind of want to link it back to AI, because I think that this idea of scarcity is interesting when we talk about AI, because at the minute it's not really scarce. Anybody can have access to it, which I think is worrying, because I think that kind of technology shouldn't just be available to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. But I also don't think it should only be allowed for big corporations or governments or whatever, because I think it gives them the opportunity to manipulate the public to an extent. But also, I saw this point recently, and I obviously don't know how true it is, but I thought it was interesting in that there's a reason why AI and using AI for a lot of things at the minute is free. And it's so that everyone is basically feeding into it. We're all teaching it more and more and more every single day by feeding more and more information into it. And we're essentially free labor to, to develop this AI. And potentially, I don't know if this is getting a bit conspiracy theory level, but will it get to a point where companies are so happy with the progress of their AI and that kind of, where it's going, what it knows, etc., that they can then put it behind a paywall So then actually it is then scarce because something that we've all had at our fingertips for free. Then
Well,
goes
I mean, I
behind a
see what you're saying,
paywall.
but first of all, I would want them to be on a paywall, but also I don't think that's going to be the trajectory, because I think the way in which tech bros want to make their money isn't necessarily through your standard transaction of you just paying them something. In fact, I think they're far more interested in power, and of course, money equals power, right? But I don't think the tech bros are like, oh, we're going to just pay all this and then we'll make a bunch of money. No, rather their way is doing what they're already doing, which is just infiltrating AI in every aspect of society. I don't expect them to, obviously there's premium subscriptions, but the baseline, I don't expect them to make it paid, because they want it to be in every aspect of our lives.
Yes.
They want it to be essentially implemented in our public services, which they already are.
Yeah.
They want governments basically to give over the little power they have left, and give it to these tech bros. These tech bros want to control society. They don't just want to make money. I think this is, the capitalists today is actually quite different the capitalists 200 years ago. Once upon a time, you had capitalists 200 years ago who were still massive fat cat bastards, but many of them still put money into public good. Someone would build libraries and monuments and statues. They would do that. And today, it's they become far more extreme in their profit seeking, but not just profit seeking, power and control seeking. So, our police in the UK use AI and use facial recognition technology, which has already shown it to be pretty poor. Already shown to have massive racial bias, because, as you were saying, the way in which AI learns off human beings, it also learns our biases. But ultimately, I think the tech bros truly feel like they are the future of humanity, especially people like Elon Musk. And it's not even a monetary value they want. They truly believe that they should be the ones in power. We're going to get to the point we don't even have fucking governments anymore. It's going to be CEOs of countries. I'm the CEO of America. Like, I genuinely think that's the way we're moving. It might not be like physically named that way, but like democracy will become even more diminished. I mean, liberal democracy is failing. In America, they don't have a democratic system. It's an oligarchy. He who spends more money typically wins an election. Although there have been great instances like Al Said, who beats his Zionist corporate Democrat candidate, destroyed her. Well, not destroyed her. I mean, it was close, but like destroyed in the fact that they put so much AIPAC money into this race. But yeah, ultimately, like, I think it's about power. So I don't expect them to put a paywall on these features. They want to infiltrate everything about us. Everything that we do, we see. And they're enjoying our free labor, which is a really good point you made, actually. Very similar to what Yanis Varoufakis was saying in Technical Feudalism, in the way in which TikTok and Instagram, all these social media platforms, is also our free labor. You produce content for the platform, you're giving your free labor. And we're sustaining that power for these tech bros, and you're not even getting paid for it.
Very true.
There's a lot of comments, but it's 10 to 9, so I don't know if I'm going to do all of them. But
no, that's fine. Go, yeah.
Thelma says creative media is largely made by progressives. News media, for the most part, is made by right wings. I would tend to agree.
Yes.
But I think it's not because the left and progressives have so much political power. I think that we always frame ourselves as leftists as losing the culture war, because there's so much like transphobia and anti-immigrant sentiment and et cetera, but I think in ways we also really do win the culture war, because that's why you've got conservatives moaning and setting up their own Daily Wire shit, because they have also lost the culture war in a way, simply because progressives are better at producing culture and art. But of course, for news media, absolutely dominated by the right. I mean, that's just unquestionable, isn't it?
But why is it that we look to progressives for creative media?
We're just better at it, though, aren't we?
And we look to, well, we don't, but it then is right wingers more so that then dominate news media.
Well, I think first of all, you have I think when it comes to news, you just have the billionaires and the corporations own the means of communication. They just own it, so they can just put out their right-wing shit, right? Now, of course, does that mean that Hollywood isn't dominated by corporations? It is. But you still have to make something entertaining even. People are not going to watch your stuff if it's boring, if it's not funny, right? Whereas like you don't have to find the news entertaining or not or whatever. Like it's just there. It's there in front of you. It's pushed in front of you, and we brainwashing people into thinking that's the truth. But when it comes to media and art, you still have to make good quality media and art. You don't need to have good quality journalism. You could just say whatever you want, regardless if it's true or not. So the mediums are very, very different. Which is why progressives they don't see conservative hegemony on culture because they're just so shit at it. They're awful. I mean, when you try and listen to right wing comedians, as I was saying earlier, it's just like, how do we punch down? And like, it doesn't ever, it doesn't really improve beyond that, does it?
No.
So it's the shit humor you get when you're like 12, 13 years old, hearing that stuff at school. Some of us grew up. Conservatives didn't. So, Celadon Faye, we're screwed. We still have to constantly have a debate about drilling in the North Sea. There's no chance politics here will catch up before it's too late. I mean, I think, again, why I'm so fucking angry with Andy Burnham, because even Keir Starmer wouldn't do it. And yet, supposedly, the government under Burnham has moved to the left, but is happy to drill in the North Sea. We're going backwards in that regard. So,
the last comment you had up, you didn't actually read out. Which I think might have been from Jim
this
Speak?
one.
Yes.
Jim Speak, great time for everyone in chat to press the fucking like button because, of course, you forgot. Everyone's busy. Don't beat yourself up about it. But yeah, please do like the stream. That'll be very helpful.
Subscribe if you're not already.
Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live.
100%.
That's
which
really important.
hopefully from next week will be.
Hopefully, we'll be far more consistent.
Back to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule.
Yeah, I think that is it for comments. Looks like.
I think there was maybe one more super chat that came through.
Let's see that. Good spot. Ollie says, just on £5 super chat, just on a human level, really don't get why more people aren't furious that we're burning the planet for the profit of a few people.
100%. It gets to me. I don't understand why people aren't more furious, but I think part of it is actually feeling a little bit helpless.
Yes.
Like
yes.
I'm angry, but I kind of don't really know who to direct my anger at. And I don't know how to turn this anger into something that's going to be productive and meaningful and actually like incite some kind of change. Because we can all be angry and we can all rant and vent or come on the show and chat to each other about it and stuff, but it can feel a little bit hopeless sometimes that
I also feel like there's a sense
an action that you can actually take.
I think there's also a sense of, oh, they'll deal with it. Like there's almost like not believing that we could really have a catastrophe on our hands. People think, oh no, we've always overcome obstacles.
Sensationalizing it, or
the smart people sort it out in the end. I think there's that, and it's like, no, honestly, it isn't. And when people say we've overcome over obstacles, what sort of obstacles in history have we overcome that's been a bigger threat to the globe as this? Yes, we've overcome war. But they have been, very specific countries, right? Yes, World War II was like the biggest war, but
there's also like, there is an outcome to that's tangible. It's, in things like that, one side's going to win and one side's going to lose. Or you come to an agreement and both sides walk away. In terms of climate change, we're arguing with each other while the thing's happening. And none of us, therefore, are actually doing anything about the thing. The thing's going to carry, the thing as in climate change, it's going to carry on regardless of whether we're arguing about it, because it's not an actual, it's not at the table. Do you know what I mean? In a war, even if it's between three parties, you can discuss the outcome of it. We can't do that with climate change because it's going to carry on regardless. Do you know what I mean?
I also think there's a class element because even though, we fought the fascists in World War II, which, by the way, fascists exist even in this country. But we defeated these certain the enemy, right? If you want to put it in a simple way. But capital still largely was intact. You still had the political and financial elites after World War II. So it's the ultimate thing to overcome is class and the ruling elites, because we've never solved that issue. We've solved many things, but we haven't solved that. And climate crisis is very much embedded in class, because it is the financial and political elites who are causing climate change. 80% of CO2 in the atmosphere is caused by the big corporations like Amazon. So in a way, it feels like it's so hard to deal with as well, because you cannot deal with it unless you deal with class-based politics, which is why you have to, see the end of capitalism. Like World War II, didn't see an end to a political system. I mean, you could argue it saw the end of fascism in Germany, but they weren't like, oh, in order to win World War II, the good guys to win, you also had to take on the elites. No, it's not that. And I tell you what, if that was the enemy, if it was about the financial political elites, we would have lost that. So I think climate change is so hard to solve because it's rooted in class, and you have to take on the financial and political elite, and we have to beat them in order to solve climate change. And, the scary thing is, can we do that? Because, for thousands of years, we have not been able to solve that problem. Whether it's capitalism, whether it's feudalism, we've had the feudal kings and queens. Now we've got the new kings and queens, and as a form of CEOs and billionaires. So, I'm not saying all throughout history there are many examples of sort of communist societies, but for thousands of years we've had a ruling elite versus the peasantry, and now it's the 1% versus the oligarchs.
I think, keep talking about it, keep sharing content about it, keep educating yourself.
Support
on
Turn
it.
Left.
Support Turn Left and other media that, that does highlight it and actually wants to do some good. And obviously we really appreciate your support as well. So on that note, I think we'll call it a day.
It's getting hot, isn't it, under the lights?
It is. It's getting late. And as we said, hopefully from next week, I think we're going to be back to a little bit more regular scheduling. And I've seen a couple of comments about maybe having Kevin back on, Helena, etc.
Definitely.
A couple of Turn Left favorites.
To say why they haven't come on is because we hadn't had a producer. Yes. So it's been us two. Although this is our Friday show.
Yeah.
But once we have the producers back,
we can start really getting self-produce if you've got an external guest, because you'd have to be the host and produce.
It's just not possible.
And trying to go through comments. Yeah.
But don't worry. We will be getting our favourites back.
Are you sick first or something? Have you had
Maybe
enough
they are.
I've had enough. I need a break. No, joking. Anyway, on that note, thank you so much, Curtis, for joining me once again on a Friday. I actually, speaking of break, I actually don't think I'm on next Friday, but we'll have a look.
We'll have a look. I need to look at the schedule, but
we do. And thank you so much to everybody who has tuned in this evening. As I have said multiple times now, we go live at 7:30 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I will see you next time.